I was doing a film with Burt down in Georgia called Gator.
I'm shooting for a Casablanca, and you know what I'll do when I get my Casablanca?
Smokey and the Bandit earned $126 million in 1977. It beat Star Wars on opening weekend, and hidden in almost every scene are errors that should have buried it. Skid marks from 15 takes visible on the road, collision damage that vanishes between cuts, a hero car so destroyed it had to be pushed into position. The studio thought they had a disaster. They dumped it in 386 Southern theaters, expecting it to quietly disappear. Instead, it became the second highest-grossing film of the year. The flaws didn't matter. But why? That answer changes everything you thought you knew about this movie. Hal Needham stepped into Hollywood carrying the weight of 56 broken bones, 2 broken backs, a punctured lung, and more missing teeth than he cared to count. Yet he moved through sets with a kind of fearless ease that made people stare. His life had been stitched together through stunt jumps, wrecked cars, and hard landings, and every injury seemed to push him closer to something bigger. He had once strapped a rocket onto the back of a GMC pickup and ended the day with a broken back, 6 shattered ribs, 1 punctured lung, and 3 missing teeth. But he still joked about it later. He sometimes even asked camera operators to miss the perfect shot so he could do the stunt again and get paid twice, which said everything about how he survived in an industry that rewarded danger. On the set of The Undefeated in 1969, he tried teaching John Wayne how to fake a punch. It embarrassed Wayne in front of the crew, and later that night, the Duke cornered him in a bar, slipped him into a headlock, and growled through the moment until tempers settled. They walked out as friends, and that strange bond followed them until Wayne's death, showing how Needham managed to earn respect, even in rooms filled with men who did not respect many people. The spark for Smokey and the Bandit came to him in 1976 on the set of Gator in Georgia. His driver captain left 2 cases of Coors beer in his hotel room, and Needham noticed the maid quietly stealing bottles one by one. He wondered why anyone would risk their job for beer. That curiosity pulled him into a stranger story than he expected. Coors could not legally be sold east of the Mississippi River because it had no preservatives and needed constant refrigeration during transport. In 1974, Time magazine explained that the beer was available in only 11 states. People smuggled it across the country, and there were even stories about cases being flown on Air Force One because it was so sought after. Needham realized that this odd little problem could fuel a whole movie. A cross-country beer run carried the spirit of an outlaw challenge, and he could feel a story forming in his head before he even put pen to paper. He wrote the script as a small B-movie with a $1,000 budget. Jerry Reed was supposed to star as the Bandit, and it made perfect sense because Reed had already worked with Burt Reynolds in WW and the Dixie Dance Kings in 1975 and Gator in 1976. Reed had charm, a strong following in country music, and chemistry with Reynolds that worked well on screen. The story already held familiar pieces. 400 cases of Coors had to be hauled from Texarkana to Atlanta in 28 hours for an $80,000 reward, which would equal $322,260 in 2024, but Reed's name alone wasn't enough to convince studios to take a chance on Needham's first directing job. No one would finance the film unless a major star joined the project. The studios weren't just hesitating. They were shutting doors in Needham's face. Each time he walked in with a script, an idea, and Burt Reynolds' name attached, executives smiled until Needham added one more detail. He would be the director. After that, conversations fell apart. They didn't believe a stuntman belonged behind a camera. He said later that he had become used to the hemming and hawing before they threw him out. Hollywood saw stuntmen as people who were good at falling, not storytelling, and the bias was so deep that Needham almost gave up trying to pull the film into existence. Then the turning point came from inside his own home. Burt Reynolds was living with him after Needham's wife had kicked him out. Needham handed over the script, waited through the night, and braced himself for whatever Reynolds had to say. The next morning, Reynolds told him the dialogue was the worst he had ever read, but he also said the idea worked and offered something Needham never dared ask for. If Needham could take Reynolds' star power and find someone willing to put up the money, Needham could direct the film. That promise carried real weight. Universal finally agreed to finance Smokey and the Bandit for $5,300,000. But only 2 days before filming in 1977, the studio sent a man to cut the budget by $1,000,000. Reynolds' salary alone was $1,000,000, which left Needham with $300,000 to shoot the whole picture. Needham and assistant director David Hamburger stayed awake for 30 straight hours rebuilding the shooting plan, turning shrinking resources into new ways to keep the movie alive. Jerry Reed felt the effects of all these changes more directly than anyone else. He had been prepared to carry the movie as the Bandit, but once Reynolds stepped in, Reed was shifted into the role of Snowman, the truck driver moving the illegal beer. The story changed shape around the new casting, although Reed handled the shift with the same calm ease he brought into every performance. Years later, he finally played the Bandit in Smokey and the Bandit Part 3 in 1983, though the movie received far less enthusiasm. Reed's steady presence in the original remained the version people remembered, the one that helped define the tone of the film. Reynolds might have joined the production, but he never softened his opinion of the script. He told Needham again that the dialogue was terrible. Still, he agreed to make the film because he believed in Needham. Since the script felt too stiff, Reynolds suggested they improvise. Sally Field later said that almost the entire film was improvised by the cast, which explained why the humor felt loose and natural. The scenes people loved most grew out of moments on set rather than anything written on Needham's legal pads. Many things changed as Needham reworked the script. Richard Boone had once been considered for the role of Sheriff Buford T. Justice. Early drafts used different names for nearly everyone. Sally Field's character Carrie was originally named Kate. Big Enos and Little Enos were Kyle and Dickie. Even the reward for the beer run changed from a new truck to $80,000 in cash. Jackie Gleason eventually took control of the sheriff role and shaped it into something unforgettable. His timing, his lines, and even the creation of his on-screen son Junior came from his own suggestions. Gleason's improvisation flowed easily through the film, giving the antagonist a strange charm that balanced the Bandit's cool swagger. Sally Field almost wasn't part of the film at all. She read the script and thought it had little substance, and in her memoir, she said she wanted to skip it entirely. She was trying to rebuild her career as a serious actress and feared the movie would make her seem unserious again. She had already turned down television roles for 3 years to reshape her image, but Reynolds saw something in her that the studio didn't. He insisted she was perfect for the role and promised they could shape the material through improvisation. Field's agent also reminded her she needed a strong movie role on her resume. She agreed at last, not knowing it would lead to a romance with Reynolds that began during filming in August 1976. Universal Pictures hesitated because they didn't see her as glamorous enough. They wanted someone more traditionally attractive, someone they believed could draw bigger crowds. Reynolds fought them on it until they backed down. He later admitted he had always admired her work on The Flying Nun and felt she would bring heart to the film. Their on-screen chemistry was real because their relationship was real, even though years down the road they fell out of touch and didn't speak for more than 30 years before Reynolds' death in 2018. When the budget cuts slammed into production just 48 hours before filming began, everything fell apart at once. The movie had been approved at $5,300,000, then suddenly dropped to $4,300,000. With Reynolds already earning $1,000,000, Needham had only $3,300,000 left for the entire shoot. Crew members had been hired, locations chosen, schedules printed, and suddenly all of it had to be rebuilt. Needham and Hamburger worked through exhaustion, trying to keep the film from slipping through their fingers. The situation with the cars made everything even harder. Pontiac supplied 4 1977 Trans Am Special Edition models and 2 Le Mans sedans, but the shoot in Georgia destroyed them. The Trans Ams were actually 1976 models fitted with 455 cubic inch engines, and the high-speed chases and jumps tore them apart. The jump over the Mulberry Bridge used a booster rocket similar to Evel Knievel's Snake River Canyon attempt, and the car didn't survive the landing. By the end, 3 cars were gone completely, and the 4th was falling apart piece by piece. As filming continued, the remaining Trans Am could barely move. The crew patched it with duct tape, spare parts from wrecked cars, and quick coats of paint, so it looked good enough for each shot. In the final scenes, the hero car wouldn't even start. Crew members pushed it into place while the camera rolled. Sheriff Justice's cruiser wasn't in any better shape, and the constant swapping of parts created strange moments that made it into the final cut. A black fender appeared, disappeared, then returned again. Collision damage vanished between scenes. Even the Trans Am's odometer showed 108.9 miles early in the film and showed the same reading later, even though they were supposed to have traveled hundreds of miles. The production never had time to fix any of this. Universal kept cutting resources while they filmed, reducing crew members and speeding up the schedule. Scenes had to be shot once or not at all. Locations were reused again and again. Everyone worked under heavy Georgia heat, with no room for mistakes. The editing team received footage too quickly and too inconsistently to correct continuity problems. So many errors stayed in the final product. When Smokey and the Bandit was finished, Universal Pictures thought they had a disaster on their hands. They rolled the film out with confidence at Radio City Music Hall in New York City, expecting applause and buzz. Instead, the premiere landed flat. Studio executives walked away, convinced they were staring at a massive failure. With almost no faith left, they made one last, desperate move. They quietly pushed the movie into the southern United States only, opening it in just 386 theaters below the Mason-Dixon line over Memorial Day weekend in 1977. In Hollywood terms, that kind of release usually meant a slow death, but something strange happened almost immediately. By the Tuesday after that holiday weekend, the film had already pulled in more than $2.6 million. Word spread fast. By the end of June, it was playing across Charlotte, Atlanta, Jacksonville, New Orleans, Memphis, Dallas, and Oklahoma City, earning $11.9 million. Southern audiences turned a supposed flop into a runaway hit simply by telling friends to go see it. The numbers that followed were even harder to believe. Smokey and the Bandit officially opened on May 27, 1977, in only 498 theaters and earned $1,728, so $60 that first weekend. That figure made up just 1.4% of its total domestic gross, something almost unheard of in Hollywood. That same weekend, Star Wars opened in only 43 theaters and made $1,554,475, which meant Smokey technically outperformed it in total dollars. The difference showed up in the details. Star Wars averaged more than $36,000 per theater, while Smokey brought in about $470 per screen. Instead of burning out, Smokey kept growing. Its final multiplier reached an astonishing 73.34 times its opening weekend. Most blockbusters make their money fast and fade. This one built momentum slowly, week after week, powered almost entirely by word of mouth. Against a production budget of just $4.3 million, which had already been cut down from $5.3 million days before filming began, the movie went on to earn $126,737,428 domestically. Only Star Wars ranked higher in the United States that year, with $221.3 million. By the end of July 1977, Smokey and the Bandit expanded beyond the South and rolled into theaters nationwide. At that point, it became the third highest-grossing film in U.S. history. What made the achievement even more remarkable was that it competed directly with Star Wars all summer long and still packed theaters. On average, each cinema kept the movie running for 4.3 weeks, proof that audiences kept coming back. Globally, the film crossed $300 million, which equals roughly $512 million when adjusted to 2024 dollars. That translated into nearly a 7,000% return on investment, placing it among the most profitable projects Universal Pictures had ever released. The production stayed cheap in creative ways. Pontiac supplied 3 Trans Ams. Much of the dialogue was improvised to save time and money. Director Hal Needham famously wrote the script by hand on a yellow legal pad after noticing a hotel maid repeatedly stealing Coors beer that a friend had smuggled in from California. With such a small budget, nearly every dollar earned turned into profit. One critic later called it a psychotic haul for what looked like a silly action comedy. Universal had nearly abandoned the film, only to watch it print money for months. For Burt Reynolds, the movie meant something personal. In 2015, he said, "Smokey and the Bandit was his favorite film and the most fun he ever had making one." That admission surprised many people because Reynolds initially thought the script was terrible when Hal Needham first showed it to him. He agreed to star anyway because he trusted the concept and his friendship with Needham. In 2017, Reynolds returned to Jonesboro, Georgia, for the film's 40-year anniversary, joining fans for barbecues, car shows, and outdoor screenings. He even took part in fan runs tied to the movie before his death in 2018. At the time of release, he was already the #1 box office star in America, and this film sealed his place as a cultural icon, helped by his relaxed charisma and unforgettable improvised lines. That same chemistry extended off-screen, especially with Sally Field. When filming began in 1977, their connection was immediate and real. Reynolds was 11 years older and already a superstar, while Field was rising fast. Crew members noticed the tension instantly. Jerry Reed later said, "You could feel it in the air, like watching 2 teenagers fall in love." Their romance spilled into tabloids and made them one of Hollywood's most talked-about couples through the late 1970s and early 1980s. Audiences sensed that authenticity in every scene. What played on screen was not carefully crafted acting. It was genuine attraction unfolding in real time. But cracks appeared early. At a promotional event, fans lined up for Sally Field's autograph more than Burt Reynolds's. Instead of laughing it off, he became visibly upset. That moment exposed a jealousy few people expected from Hollywood's biggest star. The tension deepened in 1980 when Field earned an Oscar nomination for Norma Ray. Reynolds refused to attend the 52nd Academy Awards with her and bluntly asked if she really thought she would win. He even tried to stop her from attending the Cannes Film Festival. Field went to the Oscars with David Steinberg and his wife. When she won on March 31, 1980, she thanked her family and said nothing about Reynolds. Behind the confident image Reynolds projected, Field later revealed a man who struggled deeply with insecurity. As her career grew, he tried to push her into a smaller role in his life. She later said that once she walked through the door, everything became his way. She admitted she dressed for him, moved for him, and slowly stopped existing as herself. Though he asked her to marry him several times, she refused, sensing his heart was not truly in it, and fearing the life they would end up sharing. The control became so heavy that she felt her identity slipping away. One scene in Smokey and the Bandit hit especially close to home. The moment where Frog tries to leave but gets drawn back to Bandit mirrored their real relationship too closely. Field told the director she did not want to shoot it that day because it felt painfully familiar. She nearly quit over that moment. Even decades later, she admitted there is one scene from that film she still refuses to watch because it reminds her of a version of herself she barely recognizes. Field later described their relationship as passionate but painful. She cared enough to secretly arrange a medical visit for Reynolds at the Miami Heart Institute when she worried about his stress. When the results came back fine, she urged him to seek emotional help. He dismissed her concerns entirely. Their romance lasted 5 years and ended in 1982. They did not speak for the final 30 years of his life. Before his death in 2018, Reynolds still called her the love of his life. Years later, more revelations surfaced. In December 2022, Field appeared on Watch What Happens Live and named Reynolds as her worst on-screen kiss, joking about excessive drooling. The comment stunned fans who remembered his romantic reputation. She admitted she tried to ignore it at the time, hoping it was a fluke. In her 2018 memoir In Pieces, she also revealed she nearly turned down Smokey and the Bandit because the script was so weak. Reynolds convinced her they could improvise and make it work. Many of the film's most iconic moments came from that decision. When Burt Reynolds first sat down with the Smokey and the Bandit script in early 1976, his reaction was blunt. He told director Hal Needham it was the worst script he had ever read. Still, something stopped him from walking away. He agreed to do the movie on one condition. Jackie Gleason had to play Sheriff Buford T. Justice. That single choice changed everything, because once Gleason arrived, the script almost stopped mattering. What was meant to be a small comedy with a budget of $5.3 million later cut to $4.3 million just 2 days before filming began in September 1976, suddenly came alive. When the movie hit theaters in 1977, it exploded, pulling in $126.7 million in North America and becoming the second highest-grossing film of the year. According to Hal Needham, nearly 3/4 of everything Gleason said on screen was never written down. Reynolds later confirmed it, saying Gleason never spoke a single scripted line. He rebuilt the character in real time, turning Sheriff Justice into something unforgettable through rhythm, timing, and pure instinct. That freedom led directly to the movie's most quoted moment. The diner scene where Sheriff Justice storms in demanding a Diablo sandwich and a Dr. Pepper did not exist on paper in any form. Gleason made it up on the spot. No rehearsal, no second take. Even the entire choke and puke encounter where Justice unknowingly sits next to the Bandit came straight from his imagination during filming in fall 1976. Gleason was given full permission to invent scenes, change dialogue, and follow his instincts, and he took that permission as a challenge. The Diablo sandwich itself was not a real menu item anywhere. Gleason invented it in the moment, and every reference to it since traces back to that single scene. Even the way he stretched words like "sumbitch" into something musical became part of the culture, something Hal Needham credited entirely to Gleason's improvisation. That approach came from the way Gleason worked his entire life. He hated rehearsals. He claimed to have a photographic memory and would read a script only once. While other actors rehearsed with his stand-in, Gleason watched quietly from the side. When cameras finally rolled later that day, it was his first real performance. The dialogue, the movements, even the pauses were created live. He believed this forced real reactions from the actors around him. When mistakes happened, Gleason blamed the cue cards and moved on. It drove people crazy, especially as his fame grew through the 1950s, 1960s, and 1970s. He even insisted that Sheriff Justice could not be alone in the car, which led to the creation of Junior Justice, played by Mike Henry. Small visual gags came the same way. The toilet paper trailing from his pant leg after leaving the restaurant was never written. It just happened because Gleason thought it felt right. Years later, the magic disappeared in a strange way. By 1983, producers wanted a third Smokey and the Bandit movie, but without Burt Reynolds, who had moved on. Their solution was odd from the start. The film was originally titled Smokey is the Bandit, and Jackie Gleason was cast to play both Sheriff Justice and a brand new Bandit character. He was literally chasing himself across the movie. The entire film was shot this way, but test audiences were confused and disliked it immediately. Panic set in. Producers spent more money to reshoot all the Bandit scenes, replacing Gleason with Jerry Reed. Even with that costly fix, the movie collapsed, earning just $7 million against a $9 million budget. Hal Needham and Sally Field were not involved, and Reynolds appeared only briefly. The footage of Gleason playing both roles has never been released. Amid all this chaos, one of the most beloved characters was not human at all. Fred the Basset Hound was chosen by Burt Reynolds for one specific reason: the dog refused to listen. Reynolds wanted the most stubborn animal possible, so Jackie Gleason's frustration would be real. Fred ignored commands, wandered out of frame, and did whatever he wanted. Gleason's reactions were not acting. Audiences felt that honesty and the strange bond between an angry sheriff and a disobedient dog became one of the film's most memorable running jokes. When Smokey and the Bandit arrived in theaters in May 1977, it did more than entertain. It changed the car industry. Pontiac sold 68,745 Trans Ams in 1977. In 1978, that number jumped to 93,341, an increase of 24,596 cars in a single year. Hal Needham later said the movie alone added about 25,000 sales in 1978. By 1979, production reached a record 117,128 Trans Ams, the highest number since the model debuted in 1969. The impact becomes even clearer when looking back to 1976, when fewer than 20,000 Trans Ams were sold. In just 2 years, sales had multiplied several times over. Dealers were flooded with requests for black and gold models, and the Trans Am suddenly became America's dream car. The success was so strong that Pontiac made a rare decision. The third-generation Firebird and Trans Am were supposed to arrive in 1980, but executives pushed the launch to 1982 to keep the second-generation Bandit car alive. That kind of delay was almost unheard of. In 1979 alone, Pontiac sold 211,454 Firebirds, compared to just 110,025 in 1976. When the redesigned third generation finally appeared in 1982, it carried forward the black and gold theme with special editions, proving Pontiac understood the movie's lasting pull. The numbers from 1978 tell the story clearly. Trans Am production rose 36% in 1 year, climbing from 68,745 to 93,341 units. Total Firebird production reached 187,285. By 1979, more than half of all Firebirds sold were Trans Ams. Buyers waited months for delivery, especially for the black and gold versions, while factories ran overtime to keep up. That look mattered. The black paint, gold trim, and giant screaming chicken hood decal became more than styling. Pontiac first introduced the decal in 1973 for $55, and by 1976, it was standard on special edition models. The 1977 movie locked it into history. Critics mocked it at the time, but the public fell in love. The decal stayed in production until 1981, spanning 11 years, and became one of the most recognizable designs ever put on a car. Posters of the Trans Am hung on bedroom walls like rock stars. Pontiac had taken a gamble by giving Hal Needham 4 Trans Ams for free. 3 were destroyed during filming. The 4th barely made it to the final scene and had to be pushed into frame. That gamble turned into one of the most successful product placements ever. The movie earned $126.7 million and finished second only to Star Wars in 1977. Reynolds was promised a free car if the film succeeded, but he later said he ended up buying his own anyway. Even with all that success, small mistakes slipped through. When Bandit picks up Frog, skid marks from at least 15 takes are clearly visible on the road. Sheriff Justice's car door opens, closes, and then rips off within seconds due to continuity errors. The Trans Am's antenna breaks, reappears, and disappears again. Wheels change styles between shots. In the football field, crash. A concrete structure suddenly turns into wood mid-impact. A green Cadillac appears in Alabama, then Georgia, somehow jumping across scenes and locations.